Hey everyone, welcome to this tutorial on Song for Irene by Eric Johnson. First, the usual stuff. The full lesson is split up into several parts and only the first part will be released on YouTube. For full access, you can check out my website or my Patreon page. Both offer different perks at different pricing points, so there should be something for everyone. If you want the tab and notation file, then do head over to the website, look up the song and click on the music notes icon. That way you'll get a 20% discount. No account or login is necessary to do this. It's been a few years already since we did Song for George by Eric Johnson, and requests for this song have been coming in ever since. Eric Johnson wrote Song for Irene as a tribute to his mother, and in terms of style, it couldn't be any more Eric. Wonderful chord voicings, a great melody, and quite a brisk tempo. That tempo is actually what makes it challenging to play. Everything else is quite traditional in terms of fingerstyle technique. There are a few artificial harmonics in here, but I do give you alternatives to avoid those if you want. And the same thing goes for the thumb over the side of the neck. You can get rid of that everywhere. This first part sets everything up and is quite long, but more experienced players can probably work with just the slow playthrough section at the end. After that, I'll go over each part of the song in roughly 7 to 8 minute sections. The only part that takes more time is the bridge, or section E, because there is a big harmonic run at the end for which I provide not one but two alternatives. Now, figuring out how Eric Johnson plays this song was tricky because there is only one video out there of him playing this song, but that video has a less than ideal camera angle. So there were a few parts where I had to use my own instinct rather than follow a clear example. But the end result does feel logical and efficient. So, ready? Off you go. Okay, so let's dive straight in there. We're using the most bare-boned approach possible. No capo on the guitar, no thumb pick, no flat pick, no extra tricks. The guitar is in standard tuning and we're using plain fingers. That is all. There is no intro either, so we're diving straight into the first verse. Now I am going to take the tempo down already a little bit because Eric plays this quite fast. So I'm going to give you a first slower playthrough to give you a good look at what you're up against. So here we go, verse 1. And straight into verse number 2. A lot of very colorful chords, but there are, let's say, not that many standard chord shapes in here. We start out with something that looks like a D chord, but actually with an open D string on top, so open D string. I'm using the middle finger on the 2nd fret on the G string and the pinky on the 3rd fret on the B string. Now, in that one video that we have of Eric playing this song, it's also possible that he goes for this with the middle finger and the ring finger, which allows for an easier transition into the next chord. More on that in a second. Then an E minor 9th chord, 4th fret on the D string, together with an open E string down below, open G string, 3rd fret on the B string, and an open E string on top. It's possible that we're going to swap around some fingers depending on how you're going to approach that first chord. Then we move over to a G added 9th chord, middle finger 3rd fret on the low E string, index finger 2nd fret on the G string. That is all we're going to use. And sometimes we're going to add the pinky on the 4th fret on the D string, resulting in a G major 9th chord. And a standard A chord, just a bar across 3 strings, D string, G string, B string on the 2nd fret, together with an open A string. And then we're going to move into a B minor chord, standard B minor chord shape, bar across 5 strings on the 2nd fret, A string to E string, ring finger pinky, 4th fret, D string and G string, and middle finger 3rd fret on the B string. And that is basically all we're going to play in terms of regular chord shapes. Everything else is sort of moving from one chord to the next. So we start with the picking pattern on that D chord. I'm going to start this using the middle finger on the 2nd fret and the pinky on the 3rd fret. Open D string, G string, B string, and then as you plug the high E string, you drop down the index finger and you quickly pull off from the 1st fret to the open string. 1, 2, 3. Thumb goes all the way up to the G string, 2nd fret, you pick the B string, then you let go of the A note on the G string, you pluck the open G string and you switch around to this fingering, middle finger now on the 3rd fret on the B string. You're going to notice throughout the entire song that Eric Johnson often plays these little staccato, really short melody notes. Whenever he does that, that is to switch over to the next chord shape. So you could put in all the effort in the world to make this as fluent as possible. To make that transition as fluent as possible. Eric Johnson seems to make a dedicated effort to do this the other way around, to cut that one melody note really short in order to switch to the next chord shape. And switch over like that. So really short on the pinky, open G string, switch to the middle finger, and then drop down the ring finger on the 4th fret on the D string for the E minor 9th chord. Now, in that one video of Eric playing, you can see that he's actually not moving that much around. So it's possible that he plays that first bar like this with the middle finger and the ring finger. Open G string and then dropping down the pinky for that E minor chord. That's a possibility as well. I find it a little bit easier to play the D minor chord like this, or the D chord like this. Once you drop down the E minor chord, low E string, D string, G string, B string, back to the low E string, back to the G string, and now Eric Johnson uses the thumb over the side of the neck for the 2nd fret. You can just as well use the index finger, it's sitting up here anyway. So those first 2 bars back to back, let me count along for the timing, but it's mostly just straight 8th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then middle finger 3rd fret to the low E string, index finger 2nd fret on the G string, our G added 9th chord, low E string and then D string and G string together. 1, 2, 3 to an open B string, then back to the low E string. 1, 2, 3. After repicking that low E string, you drop down the ring finger on the 3rd fret on the B string, back to the D string, and now add the pinky to the 4th fret on the G string and quickly pull off to that 2nd fret on the G string. And you're just holding down the chord shape here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, back to the low E string, 3rd fret, B string, D string, B string, and now whenever he goes back to that B string, he lets go of the entire chord for a single note fill. Just all separate notes, index finger on the 2nd fret on the G string, pulling off to an open G string, ring finger 4th fret on the D string, and back to an open G string, and you make sure that one rings out into the next bar. So maybe just that last bar or those last 2 bars on the G chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Ring finger to the 5th fret on the A string. Before we do that, those first 4 bars all the way through. Ring finger 5th fret on the A string, and you drop down the middle finger on the 4th fret on the D string as well. And you just arpeggiate A string, D string, G string, re-pick the G string, and hammer on with the index finger to the 2nd fret, ring finger 3rd fret, on the D string again, open D string, and then you drop down a small bar on the 2nd fret with the index finger across the G string and B string. Now, it's also possible to play this with 2 separate fingers. Whatever you think is easier, Eric Johnson usually goes for that small bar. This works as well, especially if you're going to use the thumb over the side of the neck. Just that first bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Thumb over the side of the neck. If that is not possible, you sort of have to rearrange those fingerings. To make sure that you get the index finger open. So I played this the exact same way. Hammer on with the middle finger to the pinky, open D string, ring finger on top, and that leaves the index finger open for the low E string bass note. So you can get rid of the thumb over the side of the neck if you want to. For those of you who are going for the thumb over the side of the neck, 2nd fret down below, you arpeggiate E string, open D string, and then whether you got those 2 fingers or that small bar, G string, you add the middle finger 3rd fret to the B string, and you pull off to the 2nd fret. 1, 2, 3, 4, back to the G string 2nd fret, and you let go of everything. And then once that open B string rings out, we drop in our G added 9th chord again, exactly the same chord shape as before. So those 2 bars back to back. To our G add 9th chord. We're just going to arpeggiate low E string, D string, G string, then drop in the pinky on the 4th fret on the D string, and then play up again, D string, G string, B string, release the pinky again, and back to an open D string. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and back to the low G string. That last bar is low E string to the G string, thumb to the D string, open B string, back to the D string with the thumb and to the G string, and then play 3rd fret again, slide up to the 4th fret, and we're going to end up on our A chord. Just that last bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 to the A chord. Those last 2 bars back to back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 to the open A string. Those 4 bars all the way through. A string, and then maybe those 8 bars, 1 recap all the way through up to this point. Here we go. To the A chord. Next 8 bars, open A string, we have that bar. On the 2nd fret, we pluck G string, then release the bar again for an open D string and hammer on back to the 2nd fret. 1, 2, 3, and now you can pick and choose. In some versions, Eric Johnson hammers on to the 4th fret and pulls back off to the 2nd fret before playing the 3rd fret on the B string. That's what we're doing now. The rest of the song, most of the time, he's going to continue the hammer-on up. Like that, hammering on to the 4th fret, then to the 2nd fret on the bar, and to the 3rd fret with the middle finger. For now, for this first verse, we're going to stick to the pull-off. That note rings out across the bar. You grab the ring finger, 4th fret on the A string, and you drop down the index finger, 2nd fret on the G string. This is a bit of a funky chord. It's a D chord with C sharp in the bass. We arpeggiate A string, G string, B string, open E string, twice that top string, and then you drop the pinky on the 5th fret on the high E string, and that again is the signal to let go of the chord shape because we're going to move into the B minor chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So the 4th beat is empty, that is the switch to the next chord. Then you play the 2nd fret on the bar in front of the beat and you land the bass note on the 1st beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Those first 2 bars back to back. Short and rings out. On the B minor chord, probably the easiest section so far, that melody note rings out from before the beat. Bass note on the D string, and then we stick to the D string for the rest of the bar. B string, G string, high E string, and back to the A string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And we land on the B string, 2nd fret. Then an open A string, we move up the pinky to the 6th fret. So we come out of this chord shape. Pinky sticks to the G string, but you move it up to the 6th fret and you drop down the index finger on the 4th fret on the D string. Open A string, G string, open B string, D string, open B string. 3, 4, that B string rings out and we move back into G add 9. Same chord shape as before. Those 2 bars back to back starting on the B minor chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 to the G chord. Beautiful chord shape. Everything in this song resonates really well. Every chord shape really speaks on the guitar. It's a testament to Eric's knowledge of the instrument. So those 4 bars all the way through, starting on the bar on the A chord. To the G chord, and now the next 4 bars are all on the G chord. It's all a variation more or less on the same thing, which makes it tricky to remember the exact picking pattern, but if you compare the original to Eric's live version, there are differences too. So if you pick a different string every now and then, don't worry about that too much. G at 9 chord, middle finger, index finger, and again, same thing, E string, D string, basically the same picking pattern we just used on that B minor chord. First bass note is on the low E string. Then the rest of the bar is all bass notes on the D string, D string, G string, D string, B string, D string, back to the G string, and back to the low E string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There is that fill with the pinky again, so the second bar is 1 and 2 and open B string, 2nd fret, G string, and then drop down the pinky, 4th fret on the D string again, D string, G string, B string, and to an open D string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Back to the low E string, same thing. That's what you played in the previous bar as well, in the first bar of this small section. And then the same thing without the pinky this time. E string, D string, B string, G string, D string, ending up on an open B string. 1, 2, 3, 4, open A string, hammer on to the 2nd fret, and we're heading back into our first D chord. And we're basically going to play more or less a full repeat of the first verse. So those last 4 bars are a bit more difficult to keep things apart because it's all so similar, but again, a few small variations aren't that much of a problem. So those last 4 bars, hopefully as I've transcribed them. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and ending back up in our D chord. Let me play those last 8 bars one more time, and then we're going to slap on the magnet so you can get a good look at what the picking hand is doing. So one more time, the last 8 bars of verse 1. And that one note sees us heading into verse 2 already. Before we do that, one take with the magnet on the guitar so you can take a good look at what the picking hand is doing. So here we go, verse 1 all the way through. So that concludes work on the verse, or section A as I should have called it. For people watching on YouTube, now is the time to switch over to my website or my Patreon page for full access to the rest of the lesson. I'll see you there.